Good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m., February 11th. I'm going to open this city council meeting. Will you please rise with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call. So Councilman Lavaca?
Here.
Councilman Loy?
Here.
Councilman Koch?
Present.
Councilman Patterson?
Present.
Councilwoman Kesty?
Present.
And Councilman Henderson.
Here.
All right. Approval of the agenda. I am looking for approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'll put forth a motion to approve the agenda.
You? Do I have a second? Okay. So I have a motion by Councilman Lavaca, seconded by Councilman Henderson. Any conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion carries. Consent agenda, 3 items, 1 through 3. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to
Thank you.
approve.
Second.
Thank you.
I do have one question, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Under the check register, I saw an item for 3,000, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number on, for 3,802, it says drones. What was that used for?
Flood.
So we hired a fairly local company to do a second drone flight that mimicked the sheriff's drone flight for high water. So we had a drone flight for aftermath of the flood.
Okay.
I see, okay.
And found some very interesting things, both where I didn't expect debris and where I expected debris and there was none. So kind of different. But that gave us kind of an additional data set to the flood.
I appreciate the proactive action. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's on our website. It was. Still?
Well, yeah, I haven't looked at it super recently, but yeah, Woody put up the link on the same YouTube set that the original sheriff flights were.
Right. Thank you. So consent agenda, we have a first and a second by Koch and Lavaca. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Motion carries. Well, tonight we have a special guest. Dan Owen is here, and he is here with one of the Board of Trustees, the Chair, Heather Swinson. Welcome. And Dan, thank you for coming in tonight and giving us a presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having both of us today. I thought about inviting the entire Board of Trustees, but you all are familiar with quorum issues. Thanks to have Heather Swinson here, the Chair. And thank you for the continued partnership between the city and the Central Skagit Library.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you make sure the mic is on?
There we go. Is that on?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks. Okay, and we have a few slides. I'm going to apologize in advance. There's a whole bunch of numbers in here, but I want to know what you guys are getting for your investment in Central Skagit Library. And I think that's kind of the easiest way to convey everything we do. And then I will take questions at the end, and Heather may jump in. She's the appropriate person to answer. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with the history. And since there's always turnover, I'm not sure how many people have been on the council since 2017 when the first agreements were signed. But I am new to Sedro-Woolley. I'm a Sedro-Woolley resident. I moved here in June to be the library director. So there's always turnover at the elected level and the staff level. This is the basic history as I understand it. I know these bullet points and timelines summarize a great deal of work and meetings and talking and probably don't capture everything, but I apologize if I'm jumping over anything important. The official name of our library district is the Central Skagit Rural Partial County Library District, which is quite the mouthful. We were formed by the voters in 2012 as a partial county library district. Our district boundaries are the same as the school district boundaries, with the exception of incorporated areas, which is Sedro-Woolley, Lyman, and Hamilton, and that is true for every library district upon its initial formation. I will come back to that a little bit. The first library director was hired in 2013, which was the first year that any revenue was collected. And then Jean Williams, who some of you may be familiar with and know, was hired in 2015. And she really started the work that led to the library being where it is today. In 2017, the library in the city of Sedro-Woolley signed 3 interlocal agreements that did 3 primary things. First, they arranged for the library district to essentially take over the library that the city was running at the time. So the existing library employees, or sorry, the existing city employees became library district employees, and the library district took over the building where the city library was housed at the time. And it jointly committed the library district and the city towards exploring a new facility. So the library district took over the building, took over the library employees, and ran that building as the library, serving the city of Sedro-Woolley and the full district until a new building was constructed. And it also set up the contractual arrangement by which the city of Sedro-Woolley pays the library district to provide library services to its residents on the same financial basis as the rest of the district. So the same, essentially, levy rate is applied to the city that the rest of the district pays directly in taxes to the library district. In 2021, a new library opened. We're coming up on 5 years of the library being open. Jean left in early 2024, and I came on board in June of 2025. Heather's here from our Board of Trustees, but because we get this question a lot, in the state of Washington, library district trustees are appointed by the county commissioners. Some other states that are elected. Here, all library district trustees are appointed by the county commissioners. Next slide, please. This be a little shorter. Our official service area, which is, again, the same as the school district, is home to 31,420, is the 2025 estimate. Sedro-Woolley is just over 13,000 of that, 13,450 or so, I believe. And you can see Sedro is about 43% of our population, but is actually about 49% of our library cards. So those are active library card holders within, which makes sense. The building is in Sedro. There's a little bit easier to get to. And then we offer cards on the same basis to anyone who lives in the county, and also Whatcom County and Snohomish County, because their libraries do the same for our residents. So there's a reciprocal arrangement. So we do have some people from outside of the county. And just as a note, when we were formed in 2012, the district was formed, there were 26,000 or so. So we're up to about 31,420. It's about a 20% growth since 2012, as you guys are probably very familiar with in our area. Next slide, please. I'll go quickly through our operating expenses. I know you guys get to look at a lot of budgets. We are just under 1.5 million for 2025. That's about 4% under budget. And about 65% of our spending goes towards staff wages and benefits, which if you look at some peer comparisons, we're actually a little low on that for staffing costs. We spend about 12% of our budget on library materials for the public, which is excellent for a public library. 10% is considered like kind of a gold standard, and if you get above that, you're running very efficiently and giving people what they want. The last thing I'll note here, actually, that I've been impressed with is the $33,000 on utilities, which may sound like a lot, but for a building of almost 13,000 square feet, it is not. So thanks to those who built an energy-efficient building, because that's actually relatively cheap for a building of that size. So that's a little bit on our operating expenses. Next slide, please. Operating revenue. This is one of the things you guys are interested in. For revenues, about 75% of our operating revenue comes from property tax. Our levy rate is 25 cents, or it was in 2025. It'll be a little bit lower this year. Our Sedro-Woolley operating payment is about $121,000, along with the capital payment, which pays for the library building. So it's about a $470,000 commitment from you guys to provide library services for our community. Other than that, timber revenue, a little over $90,000. That is, for those of you who are familiar with timber tax revenue, extremely variable, very difficult to count on. So we don't really budget for that in terms of long-term planning. And then interest revenue on our cash reserves was also about $85,000. We ran about a $150,000 deficit last year. That's about 10% of our budget. That is planned. It's a little lower than projected. The library does have cash reserves that were partially a result of some savings on the building and partially a result of collecting more than they spent, particularly before we had a larger building where we could hire more staff. So we are in a deficit situation, but that is planned for, and we do have a reserve plan and targets and things of that nature. Next slide, please. Now on to the more exciting things at the library, the more interesting things than just charts. I'll say here, I can't list everything. I'm not going to go through a huge long list of everything that happens at the library, but I will highlight a few things. If there's anything you're interested in, come down to the library, join our programs, check out our calendar online. There's something for everyone. Next slide, please. On our adult programs, we have monthly board game nights. We have crafternoons for adults, surprisingly popular. Well, surprising to me, maybe not to other people. We run multiple book clubs. We do tech help at the Sedro-Woolley Senior Center, which is a partnership with Job Corps. So Job Corps teens and young adults come down and teach seniors at the senior centers how to use their technology. They used to come to the library, and nobody really came to the library, so we sent them to the senior, for that program. So we sent them to the senior center, and now it's really awesome to see them working together, to see the senior citizens figuring out how to Zoom with their kids, and 20-year-olds showing them how to do that, or the grandkids. We have monthly author visits, workshops. We have twice a week tabletop games for Dungeons and Dragons, all sorts of tabletop games. We get 30 to 50 to each of those. If you see the library lit up on Monday and Wednesday nights, that's what's happening in there. Next slide, please. For youth and teens, I cannot summarize everything that Alia Allen and Hillary Huggins do, but we do have multiple weekly story times. Of course, our summer reading. We visit pretty much every school in the school district on a regular basis. We have Nerf fights in the library with 86 attended last time. It's getting a little crazy. I let Hillary take care of that. We have monthly maker spaces, and then we have the weekly teen craft activities, crafts, Dungeons and Dragons, and we have a young teen activities council that kind of plans a lot of these things and comes up with new ideas. Next slide, please. We also could not do what we do without our partnerships. So this is actually a very short list. I emailed everybody, said, give me a list of your partnerships, and it was a lot. But these represent a lot of our ongoing partnerships. ADDIC particularly, we have ADDIC volunteers almost every day, Job Corps, Sedro-Woolley Rise, the school district, and then the city, the Recreation Center and the Senior Center. We do programming at both of those locations. Boys and Girls Club Parent to Parent is doing a new sensory like recess thing in the library that just started last month. Many, many more. So I truly cannot list the number, particularly when we start talking about ad hoc, like we did the point in time count just last week, things like that. We use those a lot. Next slide, please. So this is more numbers to give you an idea of our usage. Our total library circulation up there is up 2% in 25 versus 24, 230,000 items or so. A lot of libraries, this number is actually dropping a bit, slipping. Ours is still increasing, a little bit slowly. But the big thing that's jumping is the things that use the building, right? So programs were up 10% in 25, 24, library visits. We have some actually fairly accurate door counters that count the number of people come in, up 10%. And then meeting room usage. We cannot keep up with the demand on our meeting rooms. Probably everybody in here has attended something in a library meeting room. We have 2 small study rooms, a conference room that'll fit 10 to 15, and then our large meeting room. We are fairly unique. And my experience is allowing people to use that large meeting room after hours when the library is closed. I haven't mentioned that to our insurance company. But you can check out a key and access just that part of the building, which is really awesome. It's really great to see that used all the time and not get damaged. But it's I think every condo association, every mobile home association, every community group has used our room. We get a lot of compliments. In a lot of other places, that space costs a lot of money, including in the Mount Vernon Library. as an example. So that's a little bit on our usage. Next slide. Looking ahead, so in March, we have a bilingual outreach manager starting to extend our Spanish-speaking library services particularly, but also to extend our outreach services out in the community in general, not just for Spanish-speaking populations. The library board invested in an outreach vehicle, which is just a minivan. I argued to name it Van Halen. I've been overruled. It's Vanny DeVito until we do a community naming competition of some sort. But we go to the farmer's market usually twice a month, and that just makes things much easier. And again, as a director, it makes our insurance company very happy that not everybody's driving around in their personal vehicles. We're looking at pop-up library locations throughout the district, so are there ways that we could take library services to Big Lake, Clear Lake, Sandwich, those areas outside of Sedro-Woolley for an afternoon, a day, a couple days? What can we do? Can we find spaces? Continued partnership with regional Skagit libraries. We actually run the library software for 4 of the libraries in the county. They contribute to that. They help pay for that. But that means we share collections, materials collections, and transit books in between Upper Skagit Library, Burlington, the City Library of Burlington, and Lackawanna-Swinomish and the Central Skagit Library. So that makes about 120,000 items available to the residents of Sedro-Woolley. And if it was just our building, we'd be looking more in the 50 or 60,000. So there's a transit driver who goes once a week on a contract, and we're looking at ways to do that. It's a very cost-effective partnership in terms of making more resources available to the community. Again, continuing our community partnerships and looking at those particularly outside of Sedro-Woolley specifically, and partnering with organizations that work throughout the district. And the last 2, dynamic collection analysis and finding new cost efficiencies, are ones that we just continue all the time to be the most effective and efficient library we can be, running on a relatively limited budget. So on my second to last slide here, next slide please, I want to talk a little bit about our funding level. This is a popular question that I get in the library. And you guys are familiar with levies and all of those things. So right now, in 2026, our levy rate will be 24 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value. Lackawanna-Swinomish is 30, Snow Isle is 34, Whatcom will be 43, and Upper Skagit Library will be 50 cents, which is the legal maximum. Whatcom and Upper Skagit passed levy lid lifts in 2025. That will go into effect in 26. So when we were formed in 2012, it was a 50-cent rate. So now we have, with the tax cap and everything, we are under half of that at 24 cents. And then you can look at per capita operating expenditures. We are very efficient. And if you take anything away from this, I would like that to be the message. We are very, very efficient with the amount of money that we have and in the ways we use it. All libraries report to the state library their operating expenditures every year and their service area population. So we are about $45. Mount Vernon, you can see, is 48, and it goes all the way up to Upper Skagit, which is about 125. When you get to very small districts, it's a little out of whack. They're only serving about 5,000 people. So it's a true number, but we serve, again, about 31,000. Mount Vernon serves about 35,000. Anacortes is in that range as well. Exactly, I can't remember. But they are almost double what we are. So if you were to double our staff, we could do many more things. And I'm very proud of our staff and what we do with the resources we have. We take care of them. We use them efficiently. We are not wasting any pennies at all. So that's an idea of what you can look at in other libraries and see what they're spending per person in the region. So I do think, and if you look at this 45, I want to say, that includes, when we are budgeting and doing expenditures, that includes the timber tax and the interest and all of that. The cost to the city of Sedro-Woolley at roughly $470,000 per capita is about $36. So it's less than that. So We're very efficient. We feel like we're using the funds you guys provide very wisely, and we really appreciate them, of course, and we love this partnership. It's important to us to continue it, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
All right. Great report, Dan. Any questions? Councilwoman Kesty?
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you. And it's nice to meet you for the first time here.
Sorry, it's been a while. I should have been over.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say you do have a wonderful staff, and I've seen and heard firsthand the difference that you're making for the kids and the different things that you're offering. So I want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I'll pass that back to our staff.
Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Great library. It's a beautiful building. I've used it a few times, gone to several meetings there.
Great.
The meeting room's really nice. It's hard to find spaces like that for people to use, so that's great. I just had a quick question, just so for my understanding and for everyone else that might not understand, because I wasn't around when we went into the agreement back in 2012 or 2017. I've only been here for 2 years on the council. Can you go a little bit deeper into detail about the Sedro-Woolley's payment of $121,000 and then the capital payment of $352,000? What exactly is that due to an interlocal that the city signed? Yep. And then the capital payment, is that a payment on the building? Because it was my understanding that was paid for through state grant funding. I could be totally wrong, though.
So there were a variety of revenue sources, and some of this Charlie or Kelly can certainly address as well. But the city issued bonds to help fund the construction of the library building. The levy rate of 25 cents is applied to the total value in the city of property, and that equals the payment that is made from the city to the library. But the city is the one who's actually paying the bonds for 20 years, so they subtract the bond payment from that amount. So that amount's about $470,000. They subtract the bond payments of about $350,000, and then send us a check for the difference. So the city's commitment is roughly $470,000. That, when I'm doing my reporting and everything, that's capital funding. That's why you would call it capital funding, and we base most of our measures off operating funds, which you guys would probably consider the equivalent of your general fund, but that is how that's calculated. So you take the exact same levy rate as the rest of the district, and then apply that to the total value in the city. So there was some state funding. They applied to the state library capital facilities program and received a grant from them, but that did not cover the whole cost. And that program also requires a 50% match.
Okay. So we're paying that back out of restricted funds, right? Because that's
We're not paying it out of restricted funds. There's no direct incoming revenue specific for the library, so we can use any of the city's unrestricted funds to make that payment.
okay. Thank you.
Councilman Lloyd?
Yeah, could you make something up about what's the future of the library gonna be? Is it gonna be a center place for town, or is it people just doing stuff from home electronically, or what's the future of the library?
Wow. Yeah, that's a big question. No, I think it is my experience that people want a place and value. They don't, I get the question a lot about ebooks. Will they just replace regular books? And first off, ebooks are very expensive, and we couldn't afford that for libraries. But the degree to which people come in the building and want a sense of community and the pride they have in the building, and they want to connect with each other. Some of our fastest growing programs are programs for adults who want to come in and meet other adults and, make friends and build a community and build a sense of community. So I don't see the need or going away. I mean, in the long term, when I go and talk even to other communities in the district, they're like, we want a physical building. You know, and you're like, well, we can bring the van out for now. And they're like, yeah, that's nice, but we want a place. We want a place that we can be proud of and things like that. So I think that in the age of artificial intelligence and all of that, books are even more important, personally. But people want to connect with each other, and they want to connect with information in a way that libraries can provide. So all of our usage, most of our usage numbers continue to increase, and I don't see that changing.
I also think if you go by the library at pretty much any time, you will see kids and people out around the library, outside, gathering, hanging out. I think it's kind of a focal point, kind of just a gathering place. It's an important part of the community, I think, for a lot of reasons. And I don't think that will change.
I take a lot of meetings there, and it's always, it's really wonderful. You know, 50 decades ago, you were supposed to be quiet in the library, but here it's quite engaged. There's a lot of life that's happening within the library. It's wonderful to see. I agree.
There is a quiet room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Balancing the uses is always a challenge.
Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, and thank you for coming and giving the presentation. It's very informative, and you always learn something, and this is probably the best one that I've seen in my time on the council. And yeah, definitely, I like seeing all the activities, the Tuesday night board game night, something I always wanted to see in our community. I didn't know we were already doing it. I was working with another place to start it up, so I'll have to go. That definitely looks fun. I see it as well. It seems like with the whole having books in hand. I have a theory that technology is actually decreasing our IQ capabilities because of all the distractions. You have something in front of you, but there's so many lights and moving colors, you get so scattered. When you can settle to just words on a page, now the mind's creative and it's acting out. So I think that hopefully the libraries grow. I was wondering, you touched on the levy quite a bit, and so might be jumping the gun a little bit, but is that because there's in the future some idea of increasing the levy or putting in more efforts to see a levy increase, or?
Well, it's going to be up to the Board of Trustees. You know, I mean, we haven't done a Levy Live campaign since the district was formed, and we are in a deficit. So I think that the board is actively discussing that, but has made no decisions.
Yeah. So on your current deficit and the trend levels that you have with your current reserves, what kind of a time frame are you looking at before you're running into possibly having
With
them?
our current projections, we would be running into reserves, which is not the end of the world. There's a reason you have reserves, you know, but in 2028.
2028, okay. Huh. Yeah, thank you very much for doing that. I see the library because we have the YMCA Teen Center, we have the Community Center, we have the Senior Center, we have the library, and they're just areas for people to come together. So appreciate the great work you guys are doing.
How many of you have kids? In the schools right now? Did you know
Grandson,
that-
grandson in school.
Grandchildren.
And grandchildren, yeah. So did you know that your children and grandchildren have library cards
Yep.
because of that?
Yep.
Just you automatically, we have, through the partnership with the school district, they didn't have to do anything but just go to school and they automatically have a library card. It's another one of those wonderful partnerships that we have.
I agree. It was brilliant when it was put together. Councilwoman Pedersen?
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask about, you were talking about the
Can we go to the next slide, please?
materials costs.
Yeah. There we go.
And I'm interested to know how much you're spending on paper books
Yeah.
versus, electronic books. I don't
Yeah.
Kindle or anything else.
So we're about 60-40 physical materials at the
Okay.
moment. And the electronic materials cost libraries much more than the print materials. You're buying, you guys, this is no different from most of our lives. You're buying a license, and then it expires, and you have to rebuy it versus a physical item. So it's something we monitor quite closely. if we had unlimited funds, if any library in the state had unlimited funds, you could almost create unlimited demand, like if you could just keep buying the electronic stuff. The audiobooks are particularly expensive, but we don't just chase that electronic demand. Like, we think the physical is very important, and particularly on certain titles, it's much more cost effective. So if any of you use our ebook app called Libby or what have you, and you see there's a big wait for something that's popular, I can pretty much guarantee that there's a 2-week wait at most in the library. So, come on down and get it. Because a print book for us costs between $15 and $20, and that same licensed ebook will cost us somewhere between $70 and $100. So we get the convenience. We've shifted particularly towards buying more audiobooks with those funds, because the experience of listening, if you may recall the CDs, that you had like 13 CDs and stuff like that, like the downloading the audiobook is a significantly better experience. The ebook is quite similar in some ways, so we try to be responsive to that. But if you don't pay attention to it, you can be spending all of your money on electronic stuff very quickly. So we're about 60-40 at the moment.
Well, I really liked the numbers part of your presentation and all of the efficiencies. I can tell that the board is working really hard, as you are, to keep costs reasonable. And I'd also like to say, given that we're seeing more people using those electronic resources, I think it's really exceptional that our library is such a great community space. And I think that is due in large part because the board and the staff work hard with the community to make sure that it's accessible and available for those uses. And I really appreciate that. I think it's really exceptional.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Councilman Cock?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. As a writer, I use your library a lot.
Wonderful.
Also Burlington Library a lot. And, you really are a community center. And I worked for many years at Western Washington University, and I watched how they understood the importance of maintaining relevance of libraries in the digital age. And they now have their tutoring center in Wilson Library. They have a bagelry, and you guys are following the same kind of creative ways to draw people into the library, and it becomes a community hub, a place where people gather, especially children. I mean, they're so excited running around the library. It's just great to see. And I consume a lot of knowledge online, but I'm a book reader. I read from a book every night before I go to sleep. It kind of drives my wife crazy, but I did have one question. Do you guys, speaking of Wilson Library, do you have any kind of partnership or interlocal loan with them? That's a fabulous library.
With an academic, like the college library?
Oh, but it's like what, 5 stories tall, full of books?
Right. We do not. So there are a lot of libraries who run what you would call an interlibrary loan service. Burlington does. We just share with the 4 libraries in our consortium, and we do not run a formal interlibrary loan service, which involves mailing. Mailing on an interlibrary loan book is about $8 each, so $4 each way. And there's a lot of staff time involved. You're putting it in mailers, you're mailing it up there. It's not something we can afford at this time.
I see.
And Burlington's thinking about getting rid of theirs. I know that, but it's a pricey service. It would be awesome if we could.
What about Skagit Valley College? They have a good library. Are you involved with them at all?
We are not involved with them at this time, no.
Same kind of problem?
Same kind of problem. You really have to get to a scale where a transit service starts to be efficient, where you're sending a contract delivery driver around and you have enough materials and enough people contributing. Because honestly, I worked at a library previously where we did an interlibrary loan service, and you were like $8 in postage versus $12 for buying the material, but then you didn't have room for the material. It's the interlibrary loan through the mail is it tends to be pretty low volume and pretty high cost. So if we could get to a scale where we had public libraries around the county, or even combining with other counties, where then we could share the cost of a transit contractor with the academic or college libraries, that could make it cost effective, but that's a ways down the road before we can do something like that.
What brought it up is I believe it's still true that everybody in Whatcom County can get a Western library card, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I was in Pullman before I was here, and that was true at Washington State University. You could go up there and get a card. None of the student workers knew how to do it, but you could, and it was an amazing resource, and people still came to the public library. Like, there's nowhere to park on campus. We're not going up there.
Yeah, but parking's tough. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you very much for coming and giving the presentation. I was on the council when we were having that controversial discussion as to whether or not we move forward with it. I had the opportunity to sit on the board finding the property and working with the architects, and so it's been exciting for me to see it come full circle, and then to go in and see how it's so well loved and received. It's a joyous thing.
Well,
So,
and thank you. I mean, I will say, I came here for a job interview, and I was like, yeah, I want to work in a community that can build something like that.
yeah.
It's not easy, so thanks for
Yeah.
your work. And I should mention, thanks to your staff as well. You guys have a great city staff. I've met with Kelly and Charlie in my first months here. Nathan was like incredibly helpful with some of the facility questions. Like my first week, the fire alarm's going off. I'm like, Nathan, how do I deal with this? We're a public library, so we have incidents at the public library. We're open to the public. Your police and fire response times are excellent and appropriate levels of response. That's not true in every library I've worked in every library in the state. So thanks to you guys for having a great staff and great services.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is a good community.
Yeah.
And welcome again to the community.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, can we turn up the heat?
Good try.
I think it's a little bit chilly in here. I might be the only one, but I feel like it's a little bit chilly. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to City Administrator Report. Charlie.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Council, no report this evening.
I'm going to go ahead and give mine right away because we had a meeting on Friday, I and the Mount Vernon and Burlington mayor. We more or less sat in. We were invited. It was a listening session, but we sat in on the work session that the county commissioners had. They talked. The conversation, of course, centered around the senior center, the nutritional program, the funding. Where's that going to come from? They presented to the cities 4 different options. We did not have opportunity to discuss it. It is something that we are working on. I've already had umpteen conversations both with the county and with the other mayors. Charlie, I've pulled Charlie in. I'm going to be gone. Charlie's going to do a great job. I know that, bringing this together and making this all happen. So as that moves forward and as we gather information, as we have those meetings, we'll certainly be sharing that information with you and letting you know exactly how things are progressing. It was quite shocking when we received the news that we did from the county. These are really unusual times right now, and there's things that are happening within districts that are just really tough. I mean, even the library has talked about these are challenging times financially. So we will have more on that, and we did receive Mr. DeYoung's public comments. I think it was sent out to all of you. In fact, it should be on the dais here with you. Again, I've asked Charlie to respond to him. He will respond and also respond to all of you as the questions are answered. So still moving forward with that. The other thing that I want to talk about is the ribbon cutting that's going to be happening on the 28th for Family Promise. It's going to be at the church there on Pulte. It starts at noon. I'm sitting here trying to find it. It's from noon to 2, so would love to see you all there. It's going to be 14 short-term affordable homes that they eventually will be building, and it's just something that's going to be really wonderful and advantageous to our community. So I hope you have a chance to come and celebrate with them regarding that. The last thing that I want to discuss, and let's see, do I have it here? Maybe I don't. It is the, shoot, I don't. On the 23rd, at the library, at 10 o'clock, from 10 to 1, there is going to be what is known as a walk and roll. This is a program that is being put out for and through Wazoo, not Wazoo, I'm sorry, University of Washington. I'm sure they didn't appreciate that, now did they? But yeah, through University of Washington. And the program is actually going to be statewide. They only do so many cities a year, but it provides the opportunity to kind of examine how mobile our sidewalks are and even sides of the streets. And there's also a map that they put together so that those who are ADA, as they travel from city to city, they can tap into this program and they'll be able to have a better idea of what are streets to walk on, where the best mobility is at. It's a wonderful program. We have a number of people from the city here who have signed up. I did send it out twice to the council. Thank you, Nora, for signing up for it. I appreciate that. I didn't know if anybody else had a chance to really look at it and do that. But if you have opportunity to do that, that would be great. Something that we can really do for our citizens who are ADA and those who come to visit our city who are also ADA. Okay, with that, I will move to council reports, and I'll start with you, Councilman Lavaca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this week I've had a couple of discussions, and that senior center has been a hot topic with some of them. A couple of things that they were hoping that in time we can put out there is what is our responsibility? What is it was many of, actually, as I read through Carl DeYoung's comments, it was many of those same ones. What are our responsibility? What is our financial impact? Do we have a plan? Anything that we can put in on the website that's not saying this is what we're gonna do, but this is what the county has provided. And so at the very least to us to make sure that we have a plan going forward if that's what we're doing. So thank you for working on that. And I did tell him that I'm sure the city is on top of that. I did have a gentleman in Ward 6 and he wrote in, he was very concerned with the rate increases of utilities and was surprised by it. So I did get him in touch with Kelly, which was wonderful. And we do put out some notices, but at the same time, I did send him the links to where we could do some of those senior discount type or senior stops on rate increases for property tax utilities, but it's not really in his situation. So he really wanted me to make sure that people knew the importance of those rate increases as we put them forth and how it affects a lot of the people around the community, especially with so many other increases that are happening continuously. It might seem small to us, but with so many in place, they definitely add up to quite a bit. And so he was concerned with that. And then again, that roundabout over there on Jones John Liner, I walk it a lot. I think it's wonderful, and I've heard some really good things about that area and the way it's turned out. It's well lit. It's better lit than what people assumed, and it's actually working very functional. And so the neighbors that are around that I've talked to seem to think it's definitely an improvement. And people were concerned at the time, for sure, with another roundabout. But good job on that, Bill. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Councilman Lloyd?
Well, I just have a little personal thing here. We got a new year of baseball starting for high school this year. After 23 years of being the president, I officially resigned and gonna put 23 years is enough of that. Been at the County Parks Board for 22 years. The end of March, I'm done there, so I'll just be.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank you.
So I'll still be
You
here.
also,
till
you also
run-
started the skate competition out here,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
me and Carl's a big help with that, so. But it's just, I'm at the age, it's time to start slowing up.
Well, good for you. We appreciate you. Thank you very much, Councilman Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Councilman Cook?
First of all, thanks to Councilman Loy for his service to the city. It's wonderful. I did attend the meeting at the County Commission on the Senior Center. First of all, I've said this before, but when I was running, I doorbelled in my ward, and I met many seniors, and they talked about affordability. A lot of them had their own homes, but they, I just got a tax notice. It's, I don't know, tripled in 10 years from the county. So I went shopping. I'm a senior, on a fixed income. I went shopping, and it seems like groceries go up literally every week. I just saw that PSC has a rate increase that was approved. And then nationally, I read a story that they redid the figures on employment in the last year. They thought it was 1 million new jobs. It was like 100,000 new jobs. And the United States is at its highest level in credit card default, $1.5 trillion or $1.4 trillion in credit card debt. I mean, it's all pretty scary. So, long story short, our seniors need to be supported. Many are on fixed income, so I'm a huge supporter of the senior center, of the seniors in our community. And I did attend the meeting, and there was at least maybe 100 people there. And I talked to a bunch of them, and they were all saying the same thing. They're afraid for what could happen to their senior center. And they're afraid that, I mean, some of them were pretty blunt. They thought that the county was balancing its deficit on the backs of the senior centers. And so I think there's quite a bit of anger out there and a lot of fear. So I think here in Sedro-Woolley, we need to listen to what the various four options are and listen to what the county, but I think we should have feedback, and I really appreciate democracy in action, people showing up to a meeting like that and saying, and I'm sure going forward they will continue to do it, which is wonderful. So I just think we need to support our senior center and any way we can, but we need to also work closely with the county and be willing to push back on them on their demands to, cut senior center services. They're not talking about doing that, but at least I didn't hear. They more or less were talking about doing cost shifting to the cities. That's what it sounded like to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you, Councilman Koch, Councilwoman Pedersen, and Councilman Henderson for being there on Friday. Great to see that support. Councilwoman Pedersen?
I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to visit our neighbors at Upper Skagit, and I went there to meet with them and hear a little bit about the tribe's history. It was really interesting. I'm from downriver, so I'm learning about all of this stuff up here. I learned that the tribe has been in the area for 10,000 plus years, had a village here in what is now Sedro-Woolley, and there are obviously a lot of tribal members who still reside within the city limits and in the surrounding area. So that was a really enlightening discussion, and I look forward to learning more about that. And then, of course, on Friday, I attended the meeting regarding the senior services, and I had the opportunity to, I tried to seek out Sedro-Woolley residents, and so I could hear from them what they thought. And I heard, like Paul was saying, people are afraid that they're going to see a reduction in the level of service or an interruption in services with the way this is all being handled. And I really see that as, there's the nutrition and senior center services, which are really important. And we want to obviously see continue at the same level of service, and then on an ongoing basis, continue to meet the changing needs of that population. But also I see a need for a swift resolution to all of this so that we can reduce the fear that's really negatively impacting our seniors. It was really hard to hear how scared people were, because that I don't think is really necessary. It's just kind of almost like an administrative issue at this stage. And then I'd also like to thank, also echoing what Paul was saying, we received so many postcards from people providing comment on senior services in the city for our meeting today, and I really appreciate that. Please continue to send your comments, and we'd love to see you here as well.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kesty?
Thank you. That sounds kind of like a running theme with the county and inciting extra fear that didn't need to be there with the flood and the senior services. But I have no doubt that Sedro-Woolley will come to what's best for our residents. And I know that there have been people working on it, thinking about it for over a year, and we will take care of our seniors. I also just wanted to make mention that tonight at 7 o'clock, the Cubs are going to be playing at our high school for basketball. So after this meeting, if you guys all want to go and support them, they'd probably really love it.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you. Just wanted to give a shout out to Public Works. We had a missing curb in town, and I mentioned it the other evening, and it's already fixed. So, I mean, you guys are just awesome. Can't tell you how much we appreciate all the hard work you guys put in. On Friday, I also went to the commissioners' workshop. It was an absolute packed house. There was many people there that I know because one of the buildings I maintain in Burlington is the senior center, so I've gotten to know a lot of those people over the years. We'd first caught wind of this early in the summer about the potential changes to the nutrition program, otherwise known as Meals on Wheels. But then it's a two-part problem that are actually separate problems, but they all affect the same demographics. So the concern is the same across the board. The commissioner's staff did present some options. Some of them were very bad options, and some of them were actually halfway viable options. Understanding that we own that building, we're in a much better position than a city that doesn't own the building. So I don't see any reason why any of these senior programs should be interrupted. And we do still have time. Commissioner Wiesen let us know in that meeting that the operations portion is funded through the end of 2026. The most dire thing needing attention right now would be the nutrition program, which I believe it's January 1st, July 1st or July 31st. It's one of the two, but it's a July date. July 1st, yes, thank you. So that is going to be a big problem that's going to involve all the stakeholders, whereas the operations is something more that just us and the county need to figure out for ourselves, for our town. But the other towns basically have all the same options that we do. So I'm pretty optimistic that that this is a very solvable problem. So thank you.
All right, thank you. So moving on, it is 7:53. I'm opening it up to public comment. Public comment, please do not take our silence as something that is disrespectful to what you may have to be sharing. Our meeting is held in public. It is not a public meeting, but we do like to hear from you. So if there is anything that you would like to share, please come forward. We request 3 minutes. Do it within 3 minutes. Provide your name and how you're affiliated with Sedro-Woolley. So I see here on the list, Carl DeYoung, you signed up? Yeah.
Mayor, council, staff. I am Carl DeYoung. I live at 1101 Feldago Street, Sedro-Woolley, Washington. And Mayor and council, I'm submitting on the record questions about the Sedro-Woolley Senior Center and Senior Nutrition Services. With the Senior Nutrition Program transitioning to new providers starting July 1st, 2026, 139 days from today. And with county city senior center agreements likely being restructured in 139 days. I want to understand how the city plans to protect continuity of services and what role the city anticipates going forward. I have 9 points I submitted in writing. The good Lord stopped at 10. I only went to 9. So what are the current roles and agreements in plain language? What is the county providing and what is the city providing in the way of cash, staffing, utilities, maintenance, and in kind, and what agreements control these responsibilities. And then, of course, continuity of congregate meals in 139 days to make sure that we have no service gaps, and who will control the kitchen access, scheduling, and on-site coordination. City involvement in selection and transition planning. We need to make sure that the city has engaged with the NWRC or Skagit County on the procurement and transition timeline, so Sedro-Woolley sites needs are built into the transition plan, and if they're not, when will that engagement occur? And then the operational model, is it going to be city-run, nonprofit-run, or continuing to be county-run? And what decision date should the public expect? And then staffing and supervision, making sure is the city willing to take on the employer and supervision responsibilities for the senior center coordinator and the on-site staff? If yes, what is the plan and the timeline? If no, what is the alternate approach? And then, of course, the city budget exposure and the 2027 risk. What is the city's estimated financial exposure if the county general fund support tightens in 2027, and what contingency options are being evaluated now so seniors are not surprised later? And making sure that this facility is ready to host a new nutrition operator with the equipment, accessibility, and safety, transparency and performance measures, making sure the city commits to publishing a simple quarterly snapshot for residents so the community can evaluate whether changes are working. And of course, public engagement. Before any new arrangements are finalized, will the city host and co-host a local listening session at the senior center with seniors, families, volunteers, and providers to bring a summary back to City Council. In conclusion, I would appreciate a written response or a staff briefing date, since these decisions impact vulnerable older users and planning is needed well in advance in the next 139 days on July 1st, respectfully. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Madam Mayor, we do have a person online that has their hand up.
All right. Joe, hello, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Julia Johnson, Joe Kunstler here. First, I want to thank you for your years of public service to our community with your upcoming retirement. It is very much appreciated by me. I know we've had, many pleasant interactions on the Skagit Transit Board, and hope to shake your hand before your time's up. But a few thoughts here. First off is the last speaker, that act is going to be pretty hard to follow, but I will frame my number one concern in the way of our seniors, which is Skagit Transit needs more funding to provide paratransit, which is door-to-door transit service for our seniors. I've been pushing to try to get rider representation on the board so we can have a ballot measure and ask Skagitonians if they're up to paying another $2 per 2,000 of purchases, sales tax eligible purchases, to help fund this system. And provide span of service later into the night, because right now, if you wanted to attend a Seahawks game on public transportation, and I include Amtrak Cascades in that, you'd have to spend a night in Snohomish or King County. That's hotel tax we don't get. That's sales tax we don't get. That should be of concern, and there's other events I haven't been able to attend, like the Seattle Irish Dancing Company coming to Concrete, because our span of service ends which is the time of transit serves, ends so early at 9 o'clock at night. This is an ongoing problem for our disability community, and I hope to see a concern carried forward. The second concern I kind of works into first, which is I would hope to see Sedro-Woolley enthusiastically support having transit riders on the Skagit Transit Board. That agency needs to be more responsive to riders. The third concern, I don't know how much time I've got left. I'm going to assume a minute.
You do.
Great, thank you. You may have heard I filed a complaint to the Public Disclosure Commission about this group called Save Woolley. We don't know who they are. We don't know if this money coming into our community to influence an election is from here or outside of here. And I would hope that everyone in this community is concerned about that because we have a right to know who's putting signs up and doorbelling and such in our community. We have a right. I want Woolley to be for Woolley. Yeah, I'd like to leave it at that because this is the city council, not the school board. But I want to thank all of you for your public service. And finally, on a point of personal privilege, I'd like to see Joel and Krusty be our next mayor. It's a generational thing. It's also a way we both went to high school together. And I think it's time for some fresh leadership, courageous leadership. Thank you. My time's up.
All right, thank you, Joe. Thank you for your kind words. All right, anybody else who has any public comment? All right, with that, we are going to move on. I'll close public comment at 7 o'clock. There isn't any unfinished business that we need to discuss tonight, so moving on to new business, which is the site host agreement, and I believe, Bill, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So this is in regards to our EV charging stations on 900 Metcalf that we installed last year through EVCS, EV Charging Station or Charging Solutions is the company. And part of our agreement with them, it's an excerpt in the council packet. Section 18 allows them, with our blessing, to be able to. We have to prove it before they do it, but it's a clause that allows them to sell the equipment and the maintenance functions and that type of thing. I guess it's kind of like mortgages. It's a way for them to pull some of the upfront profit out of it so they can do other things with their business model. The Amperage Group is another EV charging company that maintains stations like this throughout the country. And so staff doesn't have any exception to it. It's part of the clause. Basically, our service, so part of this service is that we profit share off of the profits from the EV charging station. So EVCS still has to administrate that. Basically, we've ensured that the agreement we have ECS stays intact as these charging stations change ownership. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have. It appears to be pretty simple at this point. I would say I don't really have any knowledge of kind of history of how often these things get requested to be sold and bought. I would say if it starts happening frequently, it has a risk of diluting the agreement and us losing track of it, but we can address that at that time if this sort of becomes a revolving door, so to speak. But for this particular request, we don't have any reason to be for or against it, really. But this is the request from the company that currently owns our charging stations.
All right, thank you. Councilman Clark, I see you later.
Just to be clear, thanks, Bill. So this arrangement doesn't cost the city any money, and we actually make a little every month or every year or whatever. And we're not responsible for the equipment replacement or insurance or anything like that.
That's
right?
correct.
So it's just providing a service to our citizens who want to charge their vehicles, and seems to me it's kind of handy. I think the fellow who presented, you charge your car and go shop in downtown Sedro-Woolley.
Right.
All right, thank you.
All right. Councilman Henderson?
Thanks. Are they open yet?
Yes.
'Cause every time I drive by there, I see a chain link fence around it, so.
I'll have to go look. I mean, last time I was down there walking by going to get lunch, there was actually a car there charging.
Oh, okay, good. Do we get a share of the profit from the sale price?
Yes.
Or we do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How much we've made so far, I'd have to look into that, but.
Oh, I mean, of this that they're
of
wanting to sell to
this,
Amperage Group?
No, we only get a share of the profits from the actual charging of vehicles.
Okay. I don't see any problem with this either. It's almost just a business decision that kind of inadvertently has to go through us, but.
Right.
I mean, are you looking for action on this tonight?
Yes, please.
I'd motion to move forward if nobody has anything else to say.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Henderson and a second by Councilman Koch, but we do have another council member. Councilman Lavaca, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it is pretty standard on what we already put in. I remember when EVCS came in and proposed the initial plan to do it. I thought they were getting, a majority of their funding from the state and federal grants, from what I understand. And so they're using federal and state grants, taxpayer money, to build something on state land, or city land, I should say, and then sell that for profit to a private company that is now going to run the thing. Now, that's between them and their grant holders and the way that they're all written, of course, but yeah, you see where I'm not totally stoked with that action. Again, that's not on us, but we did pay to have it with all of our taxpayer money in there. There is certain things like, sure, it's on us to have the land, but it's also on us to make sure it's properly cared for and not vandalized. So our police need to check on it. It's all written in the contract. We need to make sure it's accessible and not have snow drifts in it and stuff like that. Maybe not on this one, but if it does change hands again, it would be nice to see more clause in there that we have the right to turn it off if PSC is raising the rates or struggling to make. I've heard things about rolling blackouts because of reduction of CO producing energy, or lack of battery stations going up and all that stuff. So, if we're at a pinch of that case, I would want to see something where we have the opportunity to say, okay, the city lights are important. I know that would probably already be in the grid and on PSC to handle, but yeah. Besides that, yeah, I don't see any problems with it either, but that's something that I thought about for sure. Thanks.
Okay. So, Councilman Henderson, you're just waiting for the vote. Is that what you're waiting for?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that you had everything, opportunity to say what you wanted to say. So, as stated, we have a motion by Councilman Henderson, second by Councilman Koch. This motion authorizes the mayor to approve the assignment or sale of documents of the EV charging equipment, ownership, maintenance, and operation at the 900 Metcalf Street EV charging site between EV Charging Solutions and the Amperage Group, LLC, subject to any revisions recommended by the city attorney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. That was a weak one. Moving on to information only. I think it was brought up. We do have at the dais, it was late materials, copies of the postcards and letter that was received regarding the senior service nutritional funding. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Moving on to the good of the order, and this is a call for council members and staff to present any items for discussion, or for the council members to make a motion to add an item to a future council agenda. So is there anything that council members would like to bring forward?
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I mean, we're already going to have a discussion on it, but like I said, it would be nice for us to be able to get understanding of what that actual financial impact is ahead of time, so we know kind of where we're at with that. So that would be something, if we were having that discussion, I would want to see it in a committee, and that's this forum for that.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, because you will be receiving a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of information coming forward, so your input will be fantastic.
And so the timeline on that's not going to be too far out, right, Charlie?
So first thing we have is an amendment from the county that they've proposed to the interlocal agreement that we have in place that would terminate that interlocal agreement at the end of June. The county's told us that they are open to reworking that so that they would take out the nutrition services and continue to provide the senior services for the rest of the year. That amendment to our ILA will be coming to you next meeting on the 25th. And then on the 4th of March at our study session, we'll bring a financial analysis to you that looks at all the costs related to the senior center and likely some guiding principles as well for your consideration, so we can start to kind of chart our course forward. But if we're able to extend that agreement for the rest of the year, that at least allows the senior center operations to continue without missing a beat. There is the nutrition program. There are conversations going on with that as well. We'll be able to speak to that a little bit next week. We have a county rep coming next week as well. So conversation planned on the 25th, different conversation, more of a study session, discussion planned for the 4th, and then we'll go from there.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, it seems like they've been sending money, so ultimately they're not going to be sending that money. How much have they been sending? Seems pretty easy, and I think they have a coordinator that they have the FTE, and then they have their Meals on Wheels program. But since we own the building, it shouldn't be extreme, and we can almost look at their past, so it should be fairly easy. But I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Anything else? Councilman Henderson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bullock, I don't know if there's enough time before our next meeting, but could we find some time to touch on what we were talking about last week about the Talcott and Fourth and all that good stuff, so we can get a better understanding of how to move forward on changing the designations of those streets, so we can pursue additional funding
Okay,
for.
so you're talking about maybe a briefing about functional classification and what it takes to change those classifications to make them eligible for state funding?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councilwoman Patterson.
Since Alan mentioned it, I think it'd be wise to reach out to the school district and request input from them, just at a staff level. The whole idea, I think, is to improve multimodal transportation around the school area. And just reaching out, I think it would be good to reach out to them, just so there's no surprises. You know, we don't want like a senior center situation here. Just as a courtesy to get some input, and then we can hear that too.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so we have 3 items, the senior center and what goes with that, changes of classification on Talcott, and then a request to also bring in the Sedro-Woolley School District to talk about the gate and if we can open that up or what might be the possibilities there. So they're a part of the conversation. All right. Okay, is there anything else? No? All right. With that, before we adjourn, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a regular meeting in 2 weeks, February 25th at 6 o'clock. And I think that is it. So with that, have a good night, everybody. We are adjourned.